Well, folks, as if we did not have enough stuff to worry about already, the same scientist that claims that we may be getting invaded by aliens literally at the end of this month, the same scientist that claims that 3I Atlas is some sort of an alien spaceship and not a comet, well, he has now come out warning about the dangers of people being killed by fallen satellite debris. Because new studies show that within the next decade, the chances of you being killed by a falling satellite will rise by 61%. Now, that is a drastic increase. That means by the year 2035, you are 61% more likely to be killed by a random satellite or a piece of a satellite that just fell from outer space. And you know, I've been wondering about this for a while, because we're sending satellites into outer space all willy-nilly these days. You see, back in the day, we had a handful of satellites out there. And I understand the importance of having satellites out there. But in today's day and age, we are launching thousands of new satellites every year, every single day. We're launching new satellites. And then you got Elon Musk with Starlink. He's launching these satellites left and right every day. And I was always wondering, well, what happens when the lifespan of these satellites is over? What happens if something goes wrong? And now I know that more often than not, they burn up in the atmosphere upon re-entry. And that's why we haven't worried about a lot of this stuff until now. And of course, most of the world is covered by oceans. So a lot of times this fallen space debris, it falls right into the ocean, and we don't know the difference. We don't know that it's happening, not happening, or whatever. But now in this day and age, and it's only going to get worse, there's just thousands upon thousands of little satellites being launched everywhere. And with the advancements in technology, right? Some of this technology they have to protect, right? So they're building these satellites to be more sturdy than they were back in the day. And in order to protect some of this technology from being destroyed when they launch it into outer space, they have to build some of these satellites, or at least parts of the satellite, to be a little more durable. Therefore, it doesn't burn on re-entry in the way that some past satellites did. Now, this is not the case with every single satellite launched in space, but this is the case for some. But now a lot of these recent satellites that we've sent into outer space over the last few years, their lifespan is over. I believe they usually last 5 years or so. And a lot of these things are starting to crash down back to Earth on the daily. And like I said, yes, sure, most of the time it falls in the ocean. Most of the time it kind of burns up in the atmosphere upon re-entry, and you really don't got to worry about anything. But, when you're launching thousands upon thousands of satellites every year, now you're opening up the potential for more things to go wrong. And that's what people are warning about now. And like I said, we already got enough to worry about. How can you prepare for something like this? You know, you can buy a firearm to protect your family from home intruders. What can you do to protect your family from fallen satellites? Literally nothing. There's really not much you can do to stop this. But look, I'm no expert when it comes to this type of stuff. I'm just someone that goes looking and digging, and I find these odd news stories and I bring them to you all. So I actually have a news clip of this being discussed. I'm going to play that news clip for you really quickly, but first, if you're here, if you like the videos, if you support the channel, make sure you hit that thumbs up, make sure you share the video, make sure you subscribe, and also, if you're feeling generous, you could always donate via Cash App or Super Thanks, always greatly appreciated. And who knows, maybe I could use the money to buy like a satellite-proof umbrella to protect myself from all of this fallen space debris. But with that being said, let's roll this news clip and then I'll be right back with more.
Yeah, when I first read this story, I was like, wait a minute, what are you saying there? Look out for falling space junk. Space trackers say Elon Musk's Starlink satellites are producing so much orbital garbage that it's now starting to fall back to Earth. An astronomer with Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics says an average of, get this, 1 to 2 satellites are deorbiting every single day. Wow. Joining me now is Director for the Institute for Theory and Computation at Harvard University, Avi Loeb. Dr. Loeb, you hear about satellites crashing down from the sky. Needless to say, that gives one pause.
Yes, it does. And thank you for having me. The Earth is big and 71% is covered by oceans. So the chance right now of getting killed by a fragment from a satellite reentry is not large. But the Federal Aviation Agency estimated that within a decade, this chance of getting hit by a fragment rises to 61% per year for a single person to be endangered. And that's a real concern. Just this year, SpaceX launched 2,000 satellites, and altogether the population will increase very soon to tens of thousands, and that would be a risk. Not to speak about the possible pollution of the atmosphere with the evaporation of all these metals into it.
Dr. Loeb, so many questions around this. Why are they crashing back down to Earth? Is it something about the satellites that loses the ability to continue to propel or whatever and resist maybe the gravity of Earth? I'm not a scientist. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know.
Well, this was planned. It's not unexpected. The lifespan of these satellites is about 5 years for Starlink. And so the idea was to deorbit them and let them burn in the atmosphere. And indeed, they're small enough for most of them to burn up and not reach the ground. However, some fragments can do so and reach the ground. And the concern is that the ozone layer may be damaged as they evaporate, but also there is some potential risk. And I think lawyers will start getting involved if there is damage to property or to human lives. So altogether, you know, this is a new threat from the sky.
Sure.
We are not talking just about rocks falling from the sky in the form of meteors, but also human-made debris. And in addition to that, there is the problem to astronomers that these are city lights in the sky during the nighttime. And in fact, there is the Rubin Observatory in Chile monitoring the southern sky every 4 nights. And there are lots of streaks from these existing satellites that prevent astronomers from looking at the sky without interruption.
And getting accurate information. Dr. Loeb, we just threw up a chart there with some numbers about the number of objects that are actually in the sky. The report says there are like 12,000 satellites in orbit. 8,000 of them are Elon Musk Starlinks. Should we be concerned about these objects possibly not even so much making it back to Earth, but even just, like you said, the pollution that they cause?
Well, yeah, the biggest issue is that once you have too many of them out there, they might collide by chance with one another. It's not such a big problem for low Earth orbits, but as you go higher, it becomes a real danger because there is a point where a large enough population, starts a cascade where some satellites collide and then break up, and then those fragments break up other satellites. And that would be a real problem for anything that we fly, to elevations of hundreds of miles.
Dr. Avi Loeb with a sober warning this morning to look up, be aware, and just know that 70% of the earth is covered with water, and we're probably going to be just fine. Dr. Loeb, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
You know what they say, folks. What goes up must come down. And I can guarantee you one thing. All of these scientific minds, all of these people responsible for launching all of these objects into outer space, they put way more thought into how do we get this up there as opposed to what happens when it comes down. I think that what happens when a satellite comes down is an afterthought. And yeah, as I've explained, I know I'll have the comments, it's going to burn on re-entry. I've stated that 1,000 times. But not always, right? And back in the day, when you had a satellite come down, it would happen every once a blue moon. And you didn't really worry about it. But now we're in a situation where we got thousands of satellites over our head. What happens if they all come down at once? Do one of our enemies have the potential? Do they have the technology to disable all of our satellites? And then in one day, within an hour, we see 3,000 satellites falling from the atmosphere? Is that a possibility? And look, the way my mind works, you guys know how I am. When I see stuff like this, an alarm goes off in my mind. Because on one hand, I look at this like, okay, are you warning us about the potential, problems in the future? Are you warning us that potentially, hey, maybe in the future we'll have to worry about falling satellites? Or are you kind of telling us early, like, hey, you better be worried about this in the future because we got plans to crash a satellite right into a skyscraper, or we'll crash the satellites right into a major city or something like that. I can't help but look at things in that way sometimes as well. Because, let's be real, this is totally new territory for us. And people can tell you that they know what's going to happen, or they can explain things away, but in reality, no one really knows, right? Because we've never lived in a time like this one. You can say, well, scientifically speaking, this is what's going to happen. Here's my hypothesis, right? But unless we've lived through it, do we really know? A doctor can tell you, hey, this pill has these many side effects, right? But if that pill was just created yesterday, or the day before, or the year before that, you don't really know the long-term effects that this can cause. So as of right now, we don't know the long-term effects of having thousands upon thousands of satellites floating above our head. And we don't know where this could go or what could go wrong because we haven't been living like this for long enough to know. So experts can come out and tell you things are going to go this way. Things are going to go that way. But in reality, nobody truly knows. Not me, not you, and not the experts. Because they have no way of knowing. They can do their test. They can run as many tests as they want. But no one really knows what's going to happen in the long run. So, if we're to believe what's being said now, within a decade, it's going to go from being unheard of to damn. You remember Susan from elementary school? She just got killed by a fallen satellite. That's what it looks like. Like they're acting as if this is kind of going to become kind of a regular thing. Where it's not crazy or far out there for someone to just be walking to work and get hit by satellite debris. So it's scary to think of for sure. And like I said, it makes me wonder, do they have plans to do something and they'll blame it on a fallen satellite? I don't know. You never know these days. There's all types of crazy stuff going on. So this is just the latest crazy thing that they're telling us to worry about now. For now, though, you guys let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.